We can't do things alone. We need other people. And we can't just do it through a screen. We have to be in their presence. We have to get to know them. There's something that comes alive when you're in live with somebody and you're having a conversation and you're going back and forth and you're drilling down, getting to know one another better. That's essential. And the club creates that kind of environment. People have to find their tribe, the people they're comfortable with.
Welcome to People at Pyramid. On this show, we like to introduce you to your fellow members and learn what's going on inside of the club. So let's get right over to our host, Vince Quinn, to meet our guest for today.
Hi, I'm Charley Timmins. Been a member of the club here for, I think it's about 8 years. And what I do is I work with talented professionals, try to improve the performance of their career, their job, their company, etc. What I do is I believe that there's always a better way of doing things. I meet a lot of people who are stuck. Things aren't working out the way they want them to. My job is to sit down and talk to them, listen to their story, and then try to find a better way for them to get from where they are to where they need to be. We're all on a journey to get to where we want to be or where we're meant to be, really. And that's my job, is to do that. So I sit with members of the club and talk and give them some feedback and hopefully get them unstuck so they can go off and do the things that they are meant to do for themselves or family, whatever.
And so let's talk about that, because the first time that I met you was I went to, it was a Club Life 101. So just a chance to come in, get a feel for everything that's going on, and you were the featured speaker. And to talk about the way that you speak and the way that you have this, inspirational effect to you was very clear. I mean, I left that thing being so gassed up on the experience because the way you talked about, part of it, just you get in what you get out what you put in. And so being really committed to the place and showing up and building good relationships with people and like having that approach to it was just something that really stuck with me. And I think it just in that sense of like getting an understanding of you and what you're about and how you operate and how you think about things. And then also just really the way you think about this club. I mean, what's your experience? You've been here 8 years. You've been featured in those kinds of scenarios where you get to talk to people and tell them about the experience. Like, what do you like about this place?
Vince, I believe we all need community. If the pandemic taught us anything, it's we can't do things alone. We need other people. And we can't just do it through a screen. We have to be in their presence. We have to get to know them. There's something that comes alive when you're in live with somebody and you're having a conversation and you're going back and forth and you're drilling down, getting to know one another better. That's essential. And the club creates that kind of environment. So whether it's this club or other clubs, people have to find their tribe, the people they're comfortable with, the people that they have similar values and beliefs so that they feel accepted, so they can open up and ask for help or to give help. I prefer to give first and receive later if it's in order. Sometimes I do it without any expectation of anything in return. But as I recall our that meeting, because I've given that a couple times, is everybody comes there with hopes and dreams. And what I try to tell them, the club is not here to do anything for them. When I was a young child, my mom took us out of school one morning and put us in the station wagon, one of those old station wagons, old Woodies.
Yeah.
She drove us to the equivalent of the King of Prussia Mall. And there was like nobody there, but they were setting up this stage with medals. Because in the afternoon, a presidential candidate was going to come in and give a talk. This was in Baltimore, Maryland, where we lived at the time. And I was right up against the stage where the stairs went up. And I listened to John F. Kennedy give a speech. And he came down the stairs, and I reached up with his hands. I shook his hand. And he said, ask not what your country could do for you, but what you could do for your country. The same thing goes at the Pyramid Club. What can you do for members of the club so they know you care about them and they in turn will care about you? and they will try to do things to help you because they know you care. Many people join the club and prematurely quit. I tell them, you got to be here a year. You got to show up. Nobody believes in you unless they see you here a couple times and talk to you. And once you do that, you're in like Flint. Because now you're part of the community. They know who you are. It's like Norm and Cheers. You know, you have to have a place like that. And when you're in business, business is a function of the better business relationships that you've developed. And the club is a perfect place to do that.
Yeah. And one of the things that you talk about there, like finding your tribe, right? And I think it's so interesting because obviously to find your tribe, you have to know who you are. And I know for you, like you spend so much time helping people with personal transformation. And from that standpoint about it, obviously there's a lot of things. It's a big, wide world. There's a lot of things personally that you can cover, right? But just at a top line, like how do you think about personal transformation?
You have to know what your purpose is. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you doing this, for example? What motivates us to do something like this, right? And when I ask people, tell me why you do what you did or currently doing what you're doing, they talk about the past. They don't talk about something greater than themselves. It's all about making their quota or having the best operations department at Comcast, things like that. And that's not a purpose. What are you doing to have an impact beyond yourself? That's very, very critical. Because we can't get passionate without having certain beliefs that we act on. And those beliefs drive our motivation, drive our purpose, and help us achieve. This club is made up of some incredible achievers. They're driven. They have to build wealth. Why? Because they're going to live a long time. And they have to have that money ready for them when they're ready to, what they say is retire. But it comes a particular point in their life where they suddenly realize there's got to be more to this. And that's where they start thinking about making a contribution, having a legacy. And I love to get people when they're right on that cusp of trying to, is this all there is? Is this what I've been working for 30 years? There's got to be more. I love to have those kind of conversations to help them discover all this untapped potential that they have could be directed to do something very meaningful for themselves, for society, for the environment, for a nonprofit. That really gets me juiced.
So what does that look like then? Like, what's an example of a time where you've worked with somebody like that and been able to help them have that sort of realization?
I was working with a gentleman who's about 62 years of age. And we belong to a networking group called Beacon. It's been around for 20, 30 years. And at a breakfast, we were chatting, and I said, you've been with this company where he was for 25 years. I said, what's next? Because I'm the what's next guy, right? And he said, and he was starting to describe what he wanted to do in retirement. And he was going to be active. He was going to be involved with his church, and he's going to do something. He's going to give back. And I said to him, how do you know that you're going to last long enough to do that? He said, what do you mean? I said, my understanding is your company's going through some turmoil. My question is, why should they keep you on the payroll? And he did not have an answer for me. So we started working together because I needed to discover what was his unique reason for being there. What was he contributing that nobody else could contribute there? What was his unique value proposition? He didn't know. And then one day, I found out that their software product, which every major corporation in America has, he was involved in each iteration of the development of that particular product. And I said, how many people in this organization have had that experience? He said, Charlie, they're all gone. Slowly but surely, people have been riffed. I said, wow. So all that institutional knowledge walked out the door? He said, yeah. And you have it? Yeah. Is it in any books? No, it's not written down. So you have some new people running this company because it was a family-owned company, and the third generation decided they wanted out. So they brought in some professional managers to take over and run the company. What he didn't know is those professional managers were either going to sell it or go public. So why did they need him? Because if he's older, he's 63, if he'd been around a long time, he's very costly to them. He didn't manage people. He didn't drive revenue. He was an independent consultant. I said, why should they keep you? We now know. He said, well, how do I let everybody know that? And I said, I'll figure out a way. So next time we got together, I asked him, do you ever buy fish? He said, of course I buy fish. I said, what do they wrap it in? He said, well, they have this brown paper. I said, you need to get a roll of that brown paper. It comes in a roll. It's about 4 feet high. And I want you to put that paper up on the inside of your office. And then I want you to get a magic marker and start version 1 to all the way through to the latest iteration. I don't want you to put everything up there. It's like an outline. Because that's the history of the evolution of what they're either going to sell or go public with. He said, then what do I do? And then just sit back. What I told him was going to happen is everybody that worked with him on the 4th floor is going to say, Bob, what's going on? This is crazy. What are you doing? And eventually, word will get to the top floor where the executives are, and they'll realize what you're doing. So one day he gets a phone call from the, I guess it was the executive assistant to the new CEO. He said, Mr. Big wants to go to lunch with you. And he said, great, where are we going? She said, your office, what do you want? And so the guy came down, sat there, and he said, explain this to me. And by the time he got to the end, the guy said, you're my guy. I need you. So Bob said to me, what do I do now? I said, go buy yourself 3 new suits. He said, why? I said, you're going to be making a lot of presentations. People are going to come down in limos from New York, park in your parking lot, and you're going to present to them about everything about this company's product. And sure enough, that all happened. And then one Tuesday morning, I got a phone call in my office. Charlie, are you sitting down? Vince, what does that mean when somebody says that?
Yeah, it's
bad news.
Bad. Yeah.
Said, okay, I'm sitting down. What's going on? And he said, we just went public. I said, fantastic. My first question, how'd you make out? And I could sense he was blushing through the phone. Very humble man. And he said, well, a little south of 9 mil. And I said, time to retire. And he said, no, I told you I wanted to retire at the end of 23. I said, we got 1.5 years to keep you employed. So how are we going to do that? You kept me employed long enough. I said, we'll figure out a way. Well, we didn't have to wait long because the number 3 guy in the company called him up and said, hey, you now report to me. What's that all about? I said, it's power. You're an important person now, and anybody who wants to get to you has to go through this person. He has power. He retired with a retirement dinner in 23. So he had a dream, Vince. But if he hadn't been talking to me at a breakfast one morning, he would not have retired. Yeah. He would not have gotten $9 million. Now, what's he doing with that? He's talking to his church. They want to open a missions in Central America around the coffee trade. And it's like, coffee for Jesus, where they're going to teach these indigenous people how to run a business, and then they're going to be loyal to their church. Everybody wins. And he was behind that. Am I going to take credit for that? Of course not. But what I did is I helped him realize what was going on and the actions he had to take. Did he transform himself? Of course he did, because he had to do things he hadn't done before in order to achieve the ultimate goal.
And it's amazing, I mean, how it is when you're so close to it with everything you've done and you devalue accomplishments in that case, right? Like
We all do.
Right?
We all do.
And so the value of having somebody on the outside who can be like, wait, tell me this. Oh, you have no idea how great that is. It happens to me all the time. Like, I'm always talking to different people because I'm trying to understand their business and how they operate and what, ultimately, what are they selling to people, right? And why them versus anybody else. And when you get into it a little bit and you do get to understand people, it really is a light bulb moment as somebody on the outside where it's like, you said something that you have no idea how valuable that is. And to me, I know that's everything. And we need to now focus and really discuss this thing. And we need to do it in detail. And the transformation of that, because people just kind of take themselves for granted, is crazy. It's crazy.
Someone once said to me a long time ago, one of my earlier bosses, he said, it's a shame that so many people die and take their dreams into the grave with them because they don't share it, because they're so tied up in doing somebody else's dream, not their own dream. And I took that to heart. And everybody has that potential. God put us here for a reason. We got to figure out what that is, and then we have to do it. My job is to help them discover that and then build a strategy to get it while they're still alive.
Yeah. All right. Now, Charley, we're getting to the end here, and I feel I could talk to you about this kind of stuff all day. I really could. But the one thing I like to ask everybody as well is just really quickly, in your free time, when you're not helping people with these personal transformations, and I know you've got connections over the country where you're helping people with all of this stuff. Like, what do you like to do when it's just a casual Saturday, you got nothing on your plate? What's free time Charley doing?
I'm running.
Okay.
Because mental health depends on physical health. The body breaks down, the mind is affected by that. So I try to keep exercise as much as I can. But one of the things that drives me is I realized that most of what we've been doing no longer works. And I spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's next. I'm trying to figure out what are better ways of getting things done. So, for example, I did not invent AI, but AI is a better way of getting something done. Somebody came up with that idea, and it's transforming things. And I want, for my own benefit and for my clients' benefit, I have to know what's around the corner. I have to anticipate what will work for them and what won't work for them. So I spend a lot of time doing research there, educating myself, a lot of YouTube videos, because the answer is out there and I want to find it for my clients, because that's what gets them to trust me, is I'm constantly working for their benefit. And if they win, I'll win.
Yeah, I love it. So, Charley, for people who want to reach out, get in touch with you, what's the best way to connect?
cjt@charlestimmins.com. That's the best way. Just send me an email. Mention the show. What I offer you as someone that's listened to the show, watched the show, is an hour of my time, complimentary, to talk about what you want to talk about, what's getting in your way, what's holding you back from being the person you want to be.
There you go. Well, make sure you reach out to Charley. And Charley, thank you so much for joining the show.
Vince, it's been an honor. Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to People at Pyramid. If you enjoyed the show, please tell a fellow member. If you would like to be a guest on the show, check the show notes, and we look forward to seeing you around the club soon.